Hey, it's Rap here. Just going along to explain the new Epgp system we'll be using come Cataclysm. So this is going to work. Here we go. So Epgp is basically two terms: EP, which is effort points, and GP, which is gear points. And what it basically does, you divide EP by your GP, so you divide the amount of effort you've basically put in to the amount of gear you've got out of raids or whatever, and that equals this new term called PR, which is priority rating. Quickly, I'll just explain this. So PR, basically, say this item drops, and you got one player who's got 50 effort points, say that's from killing maybe 5 bosses or something like that, and he's got 20 gear points from, say, getting 2 standard items or something like that, each worth 10 gear points each. You got another player who's only got 20 effort points, so he's only killed 2 bosses instead of 5. However, he's only got 1 item rather than 2, for example. So you could go to the situation and kind of go, who deserves it more? The person who's put more in, or the person who hasn't got enough gear? Well, basically, the maths tells you in the system who deserves it more. So yeah, the first player who's done more, even though he's got more, deserves basically this item. He's got a 2.5 PR rather than a 2 PR. And say after this item, say this item costs 20, then all of a sudden, so all of a sudden, same amount of effort points because you got the effort points to kill the boss. His GPs went radically up because you got this new bow, and as you can see, basically priority ratings changed. And now the second person, who even though he hasn't killed so many bosses, he's got significantly less gear. He's the next one up for getting loot. Right, so what do you get effort points for? Well, being on time for raids is always a good thing. Being prepared for raids, that means having all the reagents, ammo, flasks, whatever. Killing bosses, you can get effort points for. Working on new bosses, progression basically. Being helpful to the guild, donating gold items to the guild. Now, these are all just examples. I mean, haven't decided the exact system nor exactly how points will be rewarded, and there'll probably be different values depending on what you do. Now, going on to gear points, this is not solely based on item level. So, for example, an item 251 from your standard 10-man ICC, not every single drop from 10-man are going to be the same amount of gear points. In fact, if you really give a crap, then this is the complicated formula. And yeah, if you actually care, then rarity is it's 2 for uncommon, 3 for rare, 4 for epic, 5 for legendary. But anyways, ignore that. This is how the weighting system goes, because different items are basically worth more. For example, your chest piece is, a bit more significant than your wand. So this is sort of part of the weighting system. As I say, I won't go into the maths behind it. But yeah, basically a 2-handed weapon is going to be worth more than your 1.5-handed weapon. Your head, chest, and legs tend to be your key parts of your armor, so they're worth more than the other parts, as you can see: shoulder, hands, waist, feet, and trinkets. And then down at the bottom are all sort of your cheaper pieces. So, for example, with 251 drops, you may spend 251 points for a chest piece, but you'd be spending 502 points if it was a 2-handed weapon, just to give a bit of an example. Now, because different classes use different items more or less, there are some changes to this weighting system depending on what class you are. So, for example, if you're a Titan Grip Warrior, which means you can use basically two-handed weapons, one in each hand, then your offhand weapon, even though it's still a two-hander, is only got a mod of 1 as opposed to a mod of 2, because it's your offhand. If it's a hunter who wants a two-handed weapon, then that is also a mod of 1, because hunters are not using the two-handed weapons for melee, they're using it just as a stat stick, basically. Similarly, for one-handed weapons, hunters, they only cost half. For tanks, they also only cost half, because obviously a tank isn't really using his weapon for DPS, it's just there sort of as a stat stick again. And yeah, if a one-handed weapon's being used in offhand, is also worth 0.5. Shields become 1.5 if you're a tank, because obviously shields are a hell of a lot more important for a tank. Still remain as 0.5 for everybody else. And ranged weapons, they're worth 1.5 for hunters, because obviously that's the key weapon for hunters. Now, if you want to do this all in your head, but you probably don't, this means that your main hand weapon, your offhand weapon, and your ranged weapon, across all the classes, the mod is equal. So nobody's getting screwed over. Except for, I believe, Titan Grip Warriors, they do have to pay slightly more than the other classes. But then again, can't fix the maths for everyone. Otherwise, you basically just be saying, "Oh, if there's a two-hander, just give it for free." So yeah, that's basically Epgp. You put effort in, you divide this by how much gear you've got, which is done by some mathematical equation, which you guys don't have to worry about, and that gives you your priority. Whoever's got the highest priority and wants an item gets it. Their priority then goes down because they've got more gear, and it'll balance out quite nicely. It basically means people who put more into the guild get more out. People who don't get as much gear get more gear, and there is also a decay factor, so you can't have somebody who, say, raids for 7 weeks, disappears for 8, and then comes back top of the chart. There will be a decay. So over time, while your priority will stay the same, because the decay is happening on both your effort points and your gear points, it is easier to catch you up as things decay. So you can, for example, save all your EP and all your effort points for, say, the final boss, just to make sure you get a weapon or an item. That may work, but there will also be people who, say, have got 3, 4, 5 pieces of gear from the same raid, and they may be just behind you in the priority because things will decay over time. So this encourages people. Well, you can save up. You shouldn't hold back on an item just because maybe there's something shinier just about to come up, or you think you can get something in a couple of weeks' time. You may as well spend your effort. Well, add more gear points to your ratio, get the item, and you're probably still going to be in contention for the new shiny item you want in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, sorry, trying to be brief there, but that ended up being 7 minutes. But yeah, that's Epgp.